When life is going smoothly, it's easy to live. It's when life kicks and punches you that it gets much harder. As Mike Tyson said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Now, as aspiring Stoics, it's exactly in those moments when we need to remain calm, step back from our impulses, and consciously choose the smartest response. Remember, it's not what happens to us, but our reactions to it that matter. We get disturbed not by the event itself, but by our interpretation of the event. Life doesn't go smoothly. It's meant to be challenging, and it'll throw nasty stuff at you. You will lose what you love. You will get sick. You will face critical life decisions. Your favorite mug will break. You will feel miserably depressed for no reason. The world will seem to be against you. Life gets tough. So in this video, we'll share 5 practices to deal with yourself when life gets tough, all inspired by the wisdom of Stoicism. So stick around because you're in for a life-changing journey. Practice 1. Beat fear with preparation and reason. We are more often frightened than hurt, and we suffer more from imagination than from reality. What we fear will often not happen in reality. But our imaginary fear has real consequences. We're held back by our fears. We're paralyzed by what isn't real. The Stoics know about the danger of fear. The actual damage of what we fear pales in comparison to the damage done by ourselves, as we're blindly trying to prevent what we fear. The primary cause of fear, says Seneca, is that instead of adapting ourselves to present circumstances, we send out thoughts too far ahead. It's a projection to the future about something we don't control that causes a dangerous amount of worry. We want something that's not under our control, as Epictetus explains wonderfully. When I see a man in a state of anxiety, I say, what can this man want? If he did not want something which is not in his power, how could he still be anxious? It is for this reason that one who sings to the lyre is not anxious when he is performing by himself, but when he enters the theater, even if he has a very good voice and plays well, for he not only wants to perform well, but also to win a great name, and that is beyond his own control. We fear because we want what's outside our power, or we're too attached to something that's not in our power to keep. We're attached to people we love and fear losing them. We're attached to the security of a regular salary, and we desire what's not in our power to receive. We must stop attaching ourselves to external things and desires which are not under our control. Because a lack of control leads to fear. He who does not desire anything outside his control cannot be anxious. The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive, says Seneca. That's why it's so important to prepare for challenging situations to arise. Anticipating calamities is not about ruining the present moment, but optimizing it. We'll be less afraid of things which might never happen. The Stoics think the best path to freedom is by imagining what we fear as it's going to happen and examining it in our mind, until we can view it with detachment. The common way to deal with fear is to hide from it and trying to think of something else. But this is probably the worst technique of all. Fear grows by not being looked at. The proper way to deal with what we fear is thinking about it rationally, calmly, and often, until it becomes familiar. You'll get bored with what you once feared, and your worries will disappear. By confronting your fears, whether in imagination or in reality, you reduce the stress caused by those fears. Marcus has another way of dealing with fear. Clear your mind and get a hold on yourself, and as when awakened from sleep and realizing it was only a bad dream upsetting you, wake up and see that what's there is just like those dreams. What you fear is often a product of your imagination, not reality. You're afraid of something not because the reality of it is bad, but because you think reality would be bad. Most people who are afraid of spiders have never even been touched by one. What do they fear? We fear in imagination. It's like a dream. Instead of going along mindlessly, we must stop and ask rationally, does this make any sense? We're creating nightmares for ourselves. That's why we must wake up and stop this madness. We get upset at dreams. What causes the fear isn't real, but the consequences are very much real and get in our way. We're the ones holding us back. Look, you can't cure all your fears all at once. But if we manage to get less attached to things, realize that what we fear is in our imagination, and if we face our fears even in imagination only, then we can overcome most of our fears step by step. Practice 2. Life is supposed to be challenging. Difficulties show a person's character. So when a challenge confronts you, remember that God is matching you with a younger sparring partner, as would a physical trainer. Why? Becoming an Olympian takes sweat. I think no one has a better challenge than yours. If only you would use it like an athlete would that younger sparring partner. We're quick to complain about a situation. But who said it's going to be fair? Who said life should be easy? No one. That's what we're here for. We're meant for this. It's how we get better. It's how we learn to endure and persevere. It's how we grow into a mature human being. What would have become of Hercules, do you think, if there had been no lion, hydra, stag, or boar, and no savage criminals to rid the world of? What would he have done in the absence of such challenges? This Hercules example Epictetus makes is worth repeating. He goes on, obviously he would have just rolled over in bed and gone back to sleep. So by snoring his life away in luxury and comfort, he never would have developed into the mighty Hercules. And even if he had, what good would it have done him? What would have been the use of those arms, that physique, and that noble soul without crises or conditions to stir him into action? Don't wish for life to be hard, but neither wish for it to be easier when it gets tough. Rather wish for the strength to deal with it. It's an opportunity for growth. It's the younger sparring partner who's challenging you. He's just testing you. The question is, what do you do with the challenge? Are you the one who accepts it and is ready to tackle it head on? Or are you the one who throws in the towel after the first hook to the chin? This is what we're here for, say the Stoics. Life is supposed to be hard. It's even unfortunate if you don't have to face these challenges. Hear out Seneca. I judge you unfortunate because you have never lived through misfortune. You have passed through life without an opponent. No one can ever know what you are capable of, not even you. That's why the Stoics were engaged in life. They knew that's where we grow, not in the ivory towers. Next time you're facing a tough situation, accept it as a chance for growth. Don't worry about it. You can only grow. Maybe it's a formative experience you'll be grateful for later. The question is not if life will throw some punches at you, but when, and how you'll respond to it. Will you respond in a growth-oriented and positive way, ready to tackle it? Or will you respond like a victim, complaining and throwing in the towel at the first indication of difficulty? Do you see it as a chance to learn and get stronger? Or do you get frustrated and start crying? So when it gets tough, remind yourself it's what you're here for. It'll make you stronger. Practice 3. Count your blessings. Don't set your mind on things you don't possess as if they were yours, but count the blessings you actually possess and think how much you would desire them if they weren't already yours. But watch yourself that you don't value these things to the point of being troubled if you should lose them. In times of struggles, it can be helpful to remember what we have, because we forget how good we actually have it and how kind life has been with us in the past. Don't forget to be thankful for what you have, even in the face of adversity. Marcus reminds us here of 3 things. Material things are not important. Don't gather and hoard that stuff. Be grateful for all you have. Be careful not to get attached to those things. Who cares what others have? You can decide for yourself what's truly important and what isn't. Focus on yourself. Recognize how life has been generous with you. You don't need more and more stuff. You need less, and you'll be freer. The more you have, the more you can lose. Be grateful for what you have. Appreciate those things and find ways to take advantage of what you already have. Here's a divine law Epictetus generously shares with us. And what is the divine law? To keep a man's own, not to claim that which belongs to others, but to use what is given, and when it is not given, not to desire it. And when a thing is taken away, to give it up readily and immediately, and to be thankful for the time that a man has had the use of it. Desire not what you don't have, but appreciate what you do have. Always be ready to give back what you've been given, and be thankful for the time it was yours to use. What a simple law. Let's tattoo that into our minds. Seneca agrees. The greatest blessings of mankind are within us. A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not. Let's keep such an attitude of gratitude at all times, for everything we have, and for everything that comes our way. Make sure to be grateful on a regular basis. The easiest way to do that is to write down a few specific things you're grateful for each day. Add that to your morning routine when you say Marcus words. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Remember not to cling to those things. They're only borrowed from nature and can be taken away at a snap. Practice 4. Choose courage and calm over anger. Anger is a passion, a negative emotion the Stoics want to minimize. Anger, the desire to repay suffering, is brief madness, says Seneca. Because an angry man lacks self-control, is forgetful of kinship, is deaf to reason and advice, gets aroused by trifles, and doesn't know what's true and false. Very like a falling rock which breaks itself to pieces upon the very thing which it crushes. Getting angry will hurt yourself the most, and its damage is enormous. No plague has cost the human race more. That's why the best plan is to reject straightway the first signs of anger and resist its beginnings. Because once we get carried away by anger, reason counts for nothing. Anger will do as much as it chooses, and it'll be hard to turn it off. Although we cannot control our initial reaction, if we're aware enough, we can decide to go along or not. Anger, then, is a form of judgment. We interpret the situation in a way that we decide it's ought to get angry. But of what use is anger? Asks Seneca. When the same can be arrived at by reason, anger is prone to rashness. Reason is more trustworthy because it's considered and deliberate. Reason wishes to give a just decision. Anger wishes its decision to be thought just. The sword of justice is ill-placed in the hands of an angry man. Anger is not useful. No man becomes braver through anger, except one who without anger would not have been brave at all. Anger does not therefore come to assist courage, but to take its place. We can find sufficient inducement without anger, with the right values in place such as love, compassion, justice, and courage. Instead of being led by dangerous and unpredictable anger, we're motivated by intrinsic values and deliberately choose to do the right thing. When a man is wandering about our fields because he has lost his way, it is better to place him on the right path than to drive him away. Seneca makes this beautiful comparison. He says we should not hunt down the people who have lost their ways and err in their actions, but show them the right course. Instead of reacting to anger with anger, we better choose a more sensible and compassionate way and try to help them. Instead of impulsively getting angry, take a deep breath and deliberately choose to stay calm. This calm will not only rob misfortune of its strength, but also empower you to act in a just and courageous way. As Marcus says, the nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Generally, we shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger. The circumstances don't care at all. It's like getting mad at something far bigger than us. It's like taking something personally that doesn't care about us. Things don't happen against us. They just happen. Getting angry at a situation doesn't have an impact on the situation. It doesn't change it. It doesn't improve it. Oftentimes, what angers us doesn't really harm us, and our anger will outlast the damage done to us. We're being fools when we allow our tranquility to be disrupted by trifles. That's why Marcus recommends contemplating the impermanence of the world around us. What angers us now will be forgotten tomorrow. When you're angry, says Seneca, take steps to turn anger's indications into their opposites. Force yourself to relax your face, take a deep breath, soften your voice, and slow your pace of walking. Your internal state will soon resemble your external relaxed state. You can also try to describe the situation making you angry as dispassionately and objectively as possible, explains Epictetus. This will gain you time and help you see the situation with greater distance. And he says we should always keep in mind that it's not the situation that harms us, but our interpretation about it. So when someone arouses your anger, know that it's really your opinion fueling it. So instead of being angry all the time and torment the lives of those around you, why not make yourself a person to be loved by all while you live and missed when you have made your departure? Seneca asks. Practice 5. Blame your expectations. We get angry, sad, or disappointed because reality doesn't meet our expectations. We get surprised because things are not as wished. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The cucumber is bitter, then throw it out. There are brambles in the path, then go around them." That's all you need to know, nothing more. Don't demand to know why such things exist. Anyone who understands the world will laugh at you, just as a carpenter would if you seemed shocked at finding sawdust in his workshop, or a shoemaker at scraps of leather left over from work. When you find yourself frustrated, don't blame other people or outside events, but yourself and your unrealistic expectations. Turn your focus inward. Remember, we must take responsibility. The only reason we get irritated by trifles, according to Seneca, is because we didn't expect them. This is due to excessive self-love. We decide that we ought not to be harmed even by our enemies. Each one in his heart has the king's point of view and is willing to use license, but unwilling to suffer from it. We're spoiled and kick and scream like a child when the world doesn't bend to our king's point of view. We only have in mind what we think the world owes us and forget being grateful for what we're lucky to have. Our over-optimistic expectations and desires are the main reasons for our anger and frustration. Therefore, we must bring them more in line with reality, and we won't feel like let down by the world. As seen before, if we only desire what's within our control, then we can never be frustrated regardless of the circumstances. As aspiring Stoics, we should try to see the world as it really is, rather than demanding that it fits our expectations. We must remind ourselves what the world is like, what we can expect to encounter in it, and what lies within our own control. The wise person, says Seneca, will ensure that none of what happens will come unexpectedly. What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. The fact that it was unforeseen has never failed to intensify a person's grief. This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. We should project our thoughts ahead of us at every turn and have in mind every possible eventuality instead of only the usual course of events. As encountered earlier, devastation depends on how unlikely we considered an event in the first place. That's why it's so important to keep our expectations in check by regularly engaging in negative visualization. If we imagine the worst, we won't have to deal with unmet expectations and can drastically reduce the negative emotions we experience. Let's mentally rehearse the worst that could happen and see how a situation can unfold contrary to our hopes and expectations, and we'll be at peace with whatever happens. We shouldn't be surprised by anything, especially not by things that happen on a regular basis. Remember, says Marcus Aurelius, you shouldn't be surprised that a fig tree produces figs, nor the world what it produces. A good doctor isn't surprised when his patients have fevers, or a helmsman when the wind blows against him. And there you have it, some of the best practices and strategies to deal with yourself when life gets tough. All inspired by Stoicism. Remember, it's not about eliminating challenges but facing them with a calm and rational mind. We hope you found this video enlightening and that you're now ready to embrace Stoicism in your daily life. If you enjoyed this content, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to ring the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any of our future Stoic wisdom and personal growth content. Thank you for joining us today, and remember, no matter how tough life gets, you have the power to navigate through it with the wisdom of Stoicism. Stay strong and stay stoic. See you in the next video.